Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us for another Wednesday in the Word. My name is Chase Hildenbrand, and in this video, we're continuing our series in the names of God. Pastor Floyd introduced this series last week, and he told us that the names of God gives us a window into the character of God. Knowing the various names of God gives us the ability to see Him clearly, and then knowing the names of God gives us an avenue to trust Him more with our lives. And so the name we're going to look at tonight in this video is Yahweh Shalom. We come across this name in Judges chapter 6, verse 24, and it means the Lord our peace. And what a great truth for us in our world in the year 2020 right now. In Judges 6, the Midianites were wreaking havoc among the Israelites as a direct result of the Israelites' disobedience to God. And we see that for 7 years, the Israelites are living in fear from being raided from their enemies. For 7 years, the Israelites struggled. For 7 years, there was upheaval in their land. And in Judges 6, Gideon gets a visit from an angel of the Lord as he's threshing wheat in a winepress. And this is abnormal behavior because normally you would thresh wheat outside in the open air. But here we see Gideon doing it in the winepress, obviously hiding, trying to keep his wheat hidden from the Midianites so that it wouldn't be raided. And as this is happening, an angel of the Lord comes to Gideon and a conversation ensues. And the angel tells Gideon that, hey, God is with you. But Gideon finds this hard to believe with all the oppression that Israel has experienced over the past 7 years. And then God speaks through the angel and tells Gideon to deliver the Israelite people, to which many of the people in the Bible and even now, when God tells them to do something, they make excuses. We make excuses, and Gideon's no different. He makes excuses. He says he's insignificant. He's the youngest of his brothers, and on and on and on. But God tells him, hey, I will be with you. Well, if you know the story of Gideon, you know that he likes to be sure. He likes to be certain. He's always asking God for a sign. And it's no different here. And so he asks this messenger, this person, this angel, for a sign that this will indeed happen. And the messenger grants Gideon the permission, yes. And so Gideon runs home and he fixes up this elaborate meal, and then he brings it back and presents it to this person he's been dialoguing with. And then in Judges chapter 6, verse 20, we read this. The angel of God said to him, take the meat and the unleavened cakes and put them on this rock and pour the broth over them. And he did so. Then the angel of the Lord reached out the tip of the staff that was in his hand and touched the meat and the unleavened cakes. And fire sprang up from the rock and consumed the meat and the unleavened cakes. And the angel of the Lord vanished from his sight. Now, I don't know how you might have responded to that happening, but it scared Gideon. And in an instant, Gideon thought he was going to die because he had seen an angel of God face to face. He had seen God's messenger face to face. And we see this sentiment echoed throughout different places in the Old Testament. When fallen, finite creatures see the holy, infinite God, or even his messengers, they believe they are doomed. But in verse 23, God says, peace be to you. Do not fear. You shall not die. All right, so imagine Gideon's heart rate slowly beginning to normalize. He catches his breath. He thought he was going to die. He's assured that he won't die. He's processing this. He's processing what was just said. Peace. Peace, not death. God gives peace, not fear. God gives Gideon peace. And then in verse 24, it says that Gideon built an altar there to the Lord. And he called it, the Lord is peace. Well, fast forward about 1,200 years through time, and we have Jesus, God incarnate, talking to his disciples the night before he was going to be arrested. And in John 14:27, he says this, peace I leave with you. My peace I give to you. Not as the world gives do I give to you. Let not your hearts be troubled, neither let them be afraid. Jesus gives us peace. Who doesn't want peace, right? Many people in our culture, in the world, would define peace as the absence of warfare and trouble. Peace is economic stability. Peace is relational harmony, where we all sit around a campfire and sing Kumbaya together. But biblical peace is different. The biblical peace is a peace that only God can give. It's not determined by our circumstances. One biblical definition of peace that I read was the tranquil state of a soul assured of its salvation through Christ, and so fearing nothing from God, and content with its earthly lot, of whatsoever sort that is. That's the kind of peace that the Apostle Paul was talking about in many of his epistles. In Philippians 4, when he says, I've learned to be content with anything. I've learned how to abound with nothing, right? He says, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me, because of the peace that Christ gives him. This peace is available to us only through Jesus Christ. The peace Jesus provides frees us from worry and anxiety. This peace is unaffected by whatever difficult circumstances we might find ourselves in. It's a peace that surpasses all understanding, as Paul writes in Philippians 4:7. The Bible tells us that we were once enemies of God, sinners deserving of death. But the good news of the gospel is that Jesus shed his blood in our place, making a way for us to have peace with God. In Christ, we have peace now in this world, regardless of what our circumstances might be. And in Christ, we have peace forever, everlasting peace for all eternity. And so in the midst of the chaos and the brokenness of our world, especially with everything that we're seeing right now in the year 2020, we can have peace because our God is a God of peace. Jesus gives us peace. In the midst of trials and hardships, in the throes of pain and suffering, in the middle of loss and heartache, take comfort. Be encouraged. Yahweh Shalom. The Lord our peace is always with you. I'll leave you with this last verse from Paul in 2 Thessalonians 3:16. Now may the Lord of peace himself give you peace at all times in every way. The Lord be with you all. God bless.